Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's featured Reddit stories are from PettyRevenge. Story 1 today is by Indicat7. Harass my 18-year-old sister. Prepare to lose your job. This happened over 6 years ago, so I'm a little fuzzy on all the details, but it's one of my proudest moments. I am 8 years older than my sister, and although we didn't live in the same town anymore by the time she graduated high school, I was so excited for her to attend university because she applied for the same program as I did, and knowing her, she was gonna freaking kill it in a way I never could. I am shy, awkward, and overall non-confrontational. She is fierce, charming, and never backs down from a fight. Our brother is in the middle and is a perfect mix between these traits. When she told me she was traveling down south for a conference related to a potential major, I believe, I was really excited for her. This conference also had a career fair, and it was going to be the first one she'd attended. I gave her some advice about how to present herself. She had her resumes and some companies in mind, and I knew she was going to do great. Cue to the day after, and I get a call from her in distress. So she wasn't sure how a certain networking interaction went and wanted to ask me what I thought. There was a man from a certain company who took great interest in her resume, a freshman. Not unheard of, but at this point she'd had very little experience. So he pulled her aside and wanted to talk to her further. He asked her which hotel she was staying at. She got nervous, and he said he could take her to dinner that evening. At the same time, this man, who she said looked older than our dad, reached out and stroked a strand of her hair. At this point, she started crying, and I saw red. I asked her for this man's name and the company he worked for and told her to avoid that table or company at all costs. I told her she did nothing wrong and he was being extremely inappropriate. I told her to keep a buddy with her while she was still down there, and it was all right. She told me she was scared about talking to other companies in the future. How does she know if they really want her as an employee or if someone is going to be creepy? Also, this man had her resume. Apparently, he'd texted that he was in front of her hotel and she avoided responding because she was scared. Because of this, she was scared to hand out her resume. I didn't think it was possible for me to be more enraged than I already was. She was 18. First career fair. Already she was terrified of career fairs because of this sleazy old fart. Heck no, not my freaking sister. The world will not take her shine. I told her that I would take care of it and hung up. I immediately told my boss that I'd need to take the first half of the day for a personal matter. First, I looked up this man's LinkedIn so I could put a face to the rage and disgust I felt. Then I contacted my own company's HR and asked what the procedure would be if an employee of ours engaged in behavior like this while on company time. She had wonderful advice and urged me to contact this man's company's HR department as well. So I did. I left a detailed email with what had happened, their employee's name and the location of the conference and career fair where he'd been representing their company. I left my name and number as well in case they wanted to know any more details, and I recall getting a call from their HR department soon afterward telling me they were taking this seriously and were going to investigate. The woman sounded very sympathetic. She told me this man was someone that had been with the company for a while and had actually retired, so now he was mainly focused on recruitment for the company, somewhat on a consultant level. I want to say by early afternoon, I received an email that this man had been let go from the company completely, and they thanked me for my report. The speed at which this all happened lends me to believe this was not the first time. Either that or his behavior was such a liability, sending a creep to recruitment, that it was easy to just let him go. Let me tell you, that was the most fulfilling cackle I had ever cackled in all my days. I called my sister up and told her the news, and she was amazed. We talked a little bit more about what to look out for when networking. That being pulled aside generally is a good thing, but it sucks that this person took advantage of that. I told her not to take this horrible experience as normal because it was not, and emphasized she did nothing wrong. The good news is, 6 years later, she has her bachelor's and master's degree and has a stacked lineup of intern, co-op experience. Think mix of startups and big-name industries, and is currently rocking her career as a meaningful startup in her field. I am still shy, awkward, and relatively non-confrontational. But if you come for my siblings, I go for blood. It's not the norm, but it is common in a lot of fields where there's powerful rich men involved, unfortunately. This sort of thing happens in Hollywood all the time. If you're talking to somebody at a powerful company, this sort of thing happens more frequently than I'd like to admit. This sort of thing should never be allowed. It is absolutely not okay for an older gentleman to hit on you and ask you where your hotel is and touch you in any way if you're at a job or college fair. Not okay, not at all. It's so good that your sibling has your back in this. I'm not sure from reading this whether the older sibling is a brother or if it's a sister. What do you guys think though? Is it a guy or a girl? I'm guessing guy, but I'm not sure. I don't remember reading anywhere in it whether they said they were a male or female. Down in the comments by Bow Chicka. Quoting the LP, now he was mainly focused on recruitment for the company, somewhat on a consultant level. Translation, he schmoozed his way into a job where he'd be the one all the 18-year-olds trying to get into the industry would have to line up to ask him for things, and then used that position to flirt with the best-looking ones. What an effing creep. I guarantee your sister wasn't the first girl he tried this with. Let's hope she's the last. And underneath that, by more cats, please. Sleazy. He didn't want the extra money. He wanted a hunting ground. You know what? It's honestly a shame we can't just turn the tables on him and put him into a literal hunting ground. Then release onto him all the 18-year-old girls he flirted with and let them go ham. Guy was an absolute dirtbag. Our second story today, and our last story because the first one was quite long, is by Velveeta Smoothie. Oh, that sounds disgusting. As much as I like Velveeta with like salsa and stuff, oh, that sounds gross. When I think smoothie, I think things mixed with fruit. Steal my time and tell me what you owe me? Sure thing. I posted this in another sub years ago, but reading some of the works of art in this wonderful Schadenfreude fest has inspired me to share it again. Apologies if some of you have seen it before. Back in college, I worked at a gas station. We worked for cash under the table, so it was pretty loose. Another quirk was that we did not clock in and out, but were paid for each 8-hour shift. I worked 4 p.m. to midnight and had a passing friendship with a guy who worked the overnight shift. We attended the same college and had some classes together. Let's call him Dave. Dave had a problem showing up on time. Generally, it was 5 to 10 minutes, and we were friends, so I didn't mind too much, but I took to calling his house 15 minutes before my shift ended just to make sure he wasn't dragging his butt. He lived about 15 minutes away. Because I was so affable about him being a few minutes late, he would basically show up at 12:10 on the regular, and it really started to get on my nerves. I wasn't being paid for this time, and he was. One night after a particularly horrible shift, I called Dave's house and a mutual friend answered. I asked if Dave was there and she said yes, but he was in the middle of a game and couldn't come to the phone. Not wanting to vent my rage at her, I just said thanks and hung up. Dave rolled in at 12:30, his latest yet, and I let him have it. I reminded him that he was getting paid for work I was doing and it was completely unfair. He acted kind of annoyed and interrupted me with, just let me know what I owe you on payday. I came up with the idea on the spot and agreed to his terms. I stopped calling him to remind him to leave his apartment and jotted down every minute he was late. The time added up quickly, because without my constant haranguing, he was coming to work even later, generally 15 to 20 minutes late. I was always cheerful and friendly when he finally deigned to come to work, and never mentioned him being late again. Several months later, I went to pick up my pay and my weekly schedule. It was printed out, as this was in the olden days, and Dave was at the counter. "Oh, hey," I said. "I was hoping to run into you. I need to tell you what you owe me." He rolled his eyes and reached for his wallet. "Oh, no, you misunderstand," I said, sliding my printed schedule across the counter. "I don't want your money. I want your time. You owe me 16 hours of time. Which 2 shifts of mine do you want to take this week?" He tried to argue, but I showed him the records I'd been keeping. Every shift, up to the minute. He tried to say he'd work for me next week, but I wasn't having it. I didn't get to choose when I had to work for you. You're lucky I'm giving you some kind of choice, but it has to be this week. Dave worked 7 shifts that week, including a double. He was never late again. Some people need to be taught a lesson, and what a brilliant way to do that. At least you guys were friends on top of all of this, but this guy just does not see that you value your time. And obviously, because you're not even asking for money, you know that time is money, like the goblins in World of Warcraft say, time is money, friend. It is. What is your time worth to you? What would you guys take? Would you take time off, or would you take the money? Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a splendid day.